Farewell North is a weird game. Even now, looking back on it a few days after playing through it, honestly still not sure how I feel about it. I think I liked it, but I also hated it, I think. I don't know. It's a little confusing. So let's talk about it. Now, I have to say this at the outset. I never want to spoil games. I always try and give as little info as I can, but I don't know how to talk about this game without at least really heavily hinting at its ending and some of the things that happen. So if you think you want to play this game, just be warned. This game follows Kaylee and her dog. She's sad and doggy comforts her at the opening scene of the game. Turns out you're going to play as the dog, and here you are in the Scottish Isles, where you both hail from. Kaylee has a canoe and an urn, giving a hint as to the cause of her sadness. And it's up to the two of you to canoe around the islands, visiting your childhood home, and many familiar locales as you go on this journey. Something's immediately off, though, because the game lacks color. It's all black and white. As you run around the first island that sort of introduces you to the game's mechanic, it turns out you can bring color back to the world by working through whatever challenges the current island is throwing at you. And this is where my biggest issue with the game actually comes in. It feels like there's a severe disconnect between the narrative of the gameplay and the gameplay of the gameplay. It's never clear exactly what's happening. The game sort of presents itself as real, but then you're suddenly being blocked by this like metaphorical emotional darkness, which you can only clear with flowers for some reason, and those flowers come out of nowhere. It's not well explained. You do kind of find that out later where this all comes from, but it's still very abstract while still trying, it almost feels like, to be real, like this weird abstraction of reality. This disconnection makes it really hard to actually engage with the gameplay, and the gameplay itself makes it hard to engage with. This game really does feel like standard, generic indie game, the game. It's essentially a walking simulator, taking you through the emotional beats that it wants you to hit to make sure you are sad, or at least relate to its sad narrative. But of course, we can't just have a full walking simulator, so we have to have puzzles, but they're not really puzzles because it's essentially just, there's a blocker, you gotta go find the flower to unblock it, or you gotta go find the specific doorway to see through with the right perspective. But there's no challenge to it, right? It's all just, you know what you're looking for, go find it and bring it back. Later in the game, you even get into this like sheep herding because the dog you're playing as, you find out, used to herd sheep for Kaylee's mom when she was alive. So then you like run behind the sheep to make them go where you want them to go. Again, nothing challenging, just a thing to do to break up the walking. And then for whatever reason, we need to have like a Breath of the Wild stamina circle. And so then I guess because of that, you probably want to sprinkle in some collectibles on these islands so you can collect those to increase your stamina. On top of this, you have like a mini game to paddle the canoe, which I actually did find to be the most engaging part of the game. But even that was more tedium than engaging gameplay. From a gameplay perspective, it really feels like the creator of the game just threw a bunch of stuff in because they saw it in other games, and so they figured theirs needed it too. And I'm not trying to dump on the dev. It's actually pretty impressive. This is a game, I think, almost entirely made by one person. And it's actually very impressive technically that one person was able to put this all together. But again, it's just kind of this hodgepodge of mechanics that never really feel explained why you have these mechanics. And then again, disconnect in a sense from the story being told. And that's more the issue I had with it. In spite of all that, I really don't hold the mechanics against this game because I don't even think that's the point of this game. I think this game was made, the creator of this game, I think he really wanted to make it to tell a story. So it's a very narratively focused game. It's clear that Kyle, the creator of this game, cares very deeply about the story he's telling and the heritage of these islands in Scotland. And I don't want to take that away in this review. Kaylee's voice actor is great. The music is beautiful. And even though some of her monologues as she recounts some of the events in her life, they kind of were a little too on the nose, it's hard not to relate to her story. We've all lived somewhere, grown up, maybe left, or at least changed, and then we start looking back fondly on the place we grew up that maybe we didn't like as much growing up, but now that we see who it's made us to be, we can appreciate it. So it's a very relatable story. Again, my real complaint here is the dissonance that's caused by the story and the gameplay really not meshing well together. It's clear early on that there's some weird metaphorical stuff happening, but at the same time, the game is essentially playing out as though this is just normal. This is the real world. Kaylee's going on this journey, and as she goes on this journey, she's having some sadness, and that's where the metaphorical stuff comes in. But the game refuses to acknowledge this. The game opens with an urn and the dog, and then we start talking about Kaylee's mom not being here. But then about halfway through the game, you just visit your mother's grave. And there's no acknowledgement that maybe the urn isn't her mom, but then who would it be? And you can kind of put the pieces together from there. Because the game doesn't really acknowledge it, it feels like in order to serve this wanting an emotionally impactful ending, they do it in a way that feels very manipulative because you see it coming. But the fact that the game doesn't mention it sort of bothered me. Just acknowledge that it's not the mom who's died. I don't know. Maybe this is a stupid complaint, but for me, it really actually took away from the ending and the overall story because I kind of saw what was happening, but the game didn't want to acknowledge what was happening. It feels like you're hiding something that you don't have to hide, and I think might have been better to not hide. And even with all that, even with all these maybe negative feelings I have towards it, I still think I liked playing this game. There was just something peaceful about frolicking through all these islands as a dog, randomly clicking the button to make them bark, because why not? You play fetch with your human. So even though objectively a lot of this game bothered me, it still resonated with me. I kept playing this game. I couldn't stop. I really wanted to keep playing. I really wanted to explore all the islands and see all the different history of Kaylee and her life and this dog's life. Sure, the gameplay isn't original. Sure, it doesn't exactly stick the landing narratively, but also I think, who cares? Don't focus on the negative so much that you miss out on the positive, which ironically I think really is the point of this game. To me, this is one of the clearest examples of someone's passion carrying something. And I think that's a great thing, genuinely. Yeah, the gameplay might not be original. It might not stick the landing narratively, but who cares? It's clear that Kyle was so passionate about this game and it just overflows and takes you, as the player, takes you along. And that's enough to let you overlook some of the things that maybe in a different game, you'd stop playing it immediately. So for a final rating, I give the presentation a 4 out of 5, the gameplay a 2 out of 5, the story a 3 out of 5, for an overall rating of a 2 out of 5. But for value, I would say it's worth it. I think you should play this game. Just the passion that Kyle had making this game, it's worth experiencing. Hopefully I explained it well. This is a weird video for me to make because it's a weird spot to be in where looking just at the game, yeah, maybe it's not that great, but all the additional stuff that it brings with it is worth it. And I think it's worth it. I think you will enjoy it. I think it's a good, engaging experience in spite of its flaws. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Did you enjoy this game? Do you think the gameplay all worked together? Was I maybe missing it? Let me know. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. If you liked the video, be sure to like the video. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel. And I will see you all with the next video.